biblically sound and of the highest quality possible. Check us out at AmericanFamilyStudios.net.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The House of Representatives began debate on President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill after voting 219 to 213 to move forward early this morning. It came after House Speaker Mike Johnson delayed the vote after several Republicans voted with Democrats against the bill and others had yet to cast their vote. House Majority Leader Steve Scalise of Louisiana celebrates the bill about to be passed.
We are finally going to give and restore that great American dream and that hope for those families who have been waiting way too long. That help is coming. We're going to pass this bill. President Trump's going to sign it. It's going to be a great 4th of July. Let's pass the bill, Mr. Speaker.
California Republican Congressman Tom McClintock acknowledges the votes have been close.
Our process was not designed to make perfect law. It was designed to make the best law that's acceptable to a majority, and judging by the narrow votes, we've pushed this bill about as far toward perfection as our process allows.
Brian Kohlberger pleading guilty Wednesday to the murders of 4 Iowa college students in 2022.
And then let me ask you, did you, on November 13th, 2022, enter the residence at 1122 King Road in Moscow, Idaho, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder?
Yes.
Chanley Painter tells us more from Boise, Idaho.
He was able to wear, a suit and a tie for the last time. The moment he actually walked into the courtroom, he has this very good posture, and he walks in. It seems confident at times. He even gave a smile to his attorney as he sat down at the table about to plead guilty to brutally stabbing 4 young people in 2022. This plea agreement, it was all last minute, and we learned yesterday it was even last minute to the judge.
I want to offer my apologies to all the families, including the victims' families.
The hearing lasted about an hour yesterday. The victims' families, especially Ethan Chapin's family members and Kaylee Gonzalez's family members, were visibly crying and wiping tears during this time.
President Trump will kick off his Independence Day weekend by traveling to Iowa today for a, quote, very special event honoring our great country. The 250th anniversary of American independence will be held July 4th, tomorrow, with Trump saying his administration will plan a year of patriotic events celebrating the anniversary. Trump administration chief of protocol Monica Crowley says with President Trump, patriotism and strength are back.
We're kicking off tomorrow 250 years of American leadership, strength, patriotism, and pride. It's going to be a year-long landmark celebration. We want to unite the country around this landmark event, around America 250, around patriotism and shared values, and this renewed sense of civic pride.
A law firm wants the Trump administration to investigate after a situation involving a Utah Bath and Body Works store.
Jocelyn Bowden was the manager of the store for 3.5 years. While in that position, Bowden hired an employee who identifies as transgender. But according to Bowden's sincerely held religious beliefs, Bowden could not refer to that individual by a pronoun that does not correspond with his or her biological sex. Attorney Cliff Martin of First Liberty, the law firm representing Bowden.
Jocelyn does not believe that someone can change their gender, and she told Bath & Body Works that when they opened an investigation because they had heard that Jocelyn had allegedly misgendered this employee. And we don't believe that Jocelyn should have to choose between her face and her job. And so we're asking the Trump administration to look into whether the Civil Rights Act was violated.
In the meantime, Martin says Bowden was the inclusive person in this story.
She hired this employee that identified as transgender and was perfectly willing to work with that employee, and she even proposed an accommodation where she would refer to that employee only by name at all times so that everyone could work together peaceably. And it was Bath & Body Works that had the knee-jerk response of just terminating her immediately without exploring whether these employees could work together and coexist.
I'm Chris Woodward.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR on this Thursday, July the 3rd, 2025. I'm Tim Wildman with Fred Jackson. Good morning, Brother Fred.
Hey there, Tim.
And Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
And in Kansas City, KS is our good friend Ray Pritchard. Good morning,
Hey,
Ray.
happy 4th of July Eve to you, Tim.
Well,
there you go.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
Absolutely.
As are millions of Americans, those who aren't trapped in airports. Oh, man. Did you see on the East Coast, like for the last 2 or 3 days, that maybe everything's cleared out now, but they were having, miserable backups from, like, New York down to at least Charlotte.
Yeah.
Because of the weather. People trapped in airports for hours. I was talking to somebody the other day. They were on a tarmac inside the jet.
Yeah.
For like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours.
That's almost intolerable.
I know.
Yeah.
That's
awful. Apparently, I was watching a video from Atlanta the other day, and some airplanes were taxiing out, and kind of a thunderstorm, lightning storm broke out. And if they move away from the gate towards the runway and a lightning storm breaks out, they have to return to the gate to check for structural damage. So you may make it on the plane. The baggage,
even if they don't get hit by lightning?
Even if they don't get hit by lightning, they have to return in case there's been some structural damage to the aircraft while they were taxiing out and there was this lightning storm. I was not aware of that.
That makes no sense to me at all.
Well, especially if you're the one on that airplane.
That's like a federal government regulation that some committee came up with. I know those guys are trying to keep people safe, but that just that would have to be further explained to me. But I was just thinking, I've been trapped inside airports for hours and hours and hours, but I don't know what's the longest you've been trapped inside of a plane.
I was on a flight from Singapore back to I guess it was New York. It was supposed to take 18 hours. We finally got there 36 hours. So 18 hours. It was we all, including me, we all came staggering off the plane when it was over.
Goodness.
Well, how long? What was the problem?
There was. Yeah.
Were you trapped inside an airplane on a tarmac on a runway?
Well, no, we're trapped inside an airplane in the air, and we had gone a long trip, and then we were circling over New York City, and the weather was bad, and they diverted us to Boston. And it was a glorious mess.
Yeah. Well, listen, I can normally handle, travel because I, travel a lot. So I expect, you're going to run into problems. But I'm thinking if I'm trapped on an airplane on the tarmac for more than 2 to 3 hours right there, that's going to, you remember the doctor that turned into Incredible Hulk?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
All of a sudden come bursting out of your clothes.
Yeah. Bill Bixby. You remember Bill Bixby?
Yeah.
He would turn into the green.
Yeah.
I think that's what would happen to me if I had to stay on it. So I'm not claustrophobic or anything, but that just drive you nuts.
I went to Europe on a school trip back in 1999, and we got back from Paris and landed in Chicago, and due to bad weather, we had to stay in the airport for like a day and a half. And when I finally
It's
got
like Tom
home,
Hanks.
Yeah.
Make a movie.
Eating ketchup packets and sleeping on the chairs and stuff like that. But when I finally got home, my dad said, by the time you, much time you spent up there, we could have gone up there and brought you back and gone up there and brought you back twice. And I thought, why didn't you do that, Dad?
All right. Well, listen, be safe out there. It is one of the top traveled times of the year, I guess. Maybe second only to Thanksgiving and Christmas, or second or third is the July 4th. American celebration. President of the United States is in, where is he, in Iowa today?
He's going to Iowa later today because
he's waiting on something, though.
He is waiting on something, yeah. We may have fireworks before the fireworks show in D.C.
What's he waiting on, Chris?
The Big Beautiful Bill, as it is called. That's the actual name. It's not fake news.
Big
it is
Beautiful Bill.
H.R. 1 or the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That is looking like it's a locked for passage later today. The House, late last night, early this morning, voted to advance it for a final floor vote today. Hakeem Jeffries has been speaking for what seems like umpteen hours at this point, trying to get people to vote no on it once it gets to that floor vote. But it would appear, based on the fact that fiscal hawks, as they're called, did agree to advance this to a final vote, that the House is actually going to pass this today and get it to the president before or by his self-imposed July 4th deadline. So he may actually sign this thing today if they do pass it, and he's going to go to Iowa later tonight for a 5:30, 6 p.m. Central event celebrating America's birthday.
Now, the Democrats, led by Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, he's leader of the Democrats in the House, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
He's speaking right now. I was watching him on television. He's been speaking a long time, has he?
For 6 hours and 17 minutes right now. MSNBC has a count on
he's going to turn into the Incredible Hulk.
You don't want to see me mad.
That's listening to a guy speak for. So he's been speaking for. Take a break.
No, he
has a water break or restroom break or anything?
They haven't taken. He hasn't taken a break. But apparently, somebody was saying back about 5 hours ago, one of the Democrats fell asleep behind him, and someone came and got him, and they replaced him with somebody else.
It looks bad on C-SPAN to be falling asleep, brother.
When your leader's
up there speaking. What? All right. In all seriousness, this is a big deal.
Yes, it is.
And it's about to pass. It appears the Republicans only have a 4 vote margin in the House of Representatives.
It's
it's very narrow.
Yeah, approximately half a dozen. Maybe.
Now, if trying to understand what is the basic objection of the Democrats to this big beautiful bill, other than Democrats vote for their stuff and Republicans vote against them, and you can flip that on almost all legislation. What are they saying? What the Democrats are saying they're going to vote against this for?
Well, they've been really out there up front. They've been going after Medicaid cuts. They say millions of Americans are going to lose their Medicaid. But what Republicans have said from the beginning on this, they want to get people off of Medicaid. Number one, people who are healthy and were to be able to work, and even the demand for those individuals. All we're going to ask you to do is work 20 hours a week or volunteer for 20 hours a week. Yeah, or study or whatever. Mm-hmm. The other thing, they want to get people.
You call that Medicaid?
Medicaid, yes,
right.
not Medicare. And the others that they want to get off of Medicaid are people who are in the country illegally.
Well, they shouldn't be on there in the first place.
That is right. But there are apparently tens of thousands under the Biden administration. And even going back to Obamacare, Obama opened up qualifications for Medicaid to hundreds of thousands of people more in order to increase the numbers of people getting on Obamacare.
I tell you what, all this makes my head spin. It's hard to understand all this, but I do understand getting government money, a handout, if you will, from the federal government, and them requiring you to do something is not a sin.
Mm-hmm. Bill Clinton was in favor of that back in '96.
Yes. Now, okay, just not to belabor the point, but this Medicaid,
Medicaid, yes.
They need to change one of the words. Okay, either change the word Medicaid or change the word Medicare. Because every time those things are mentioned, my head goes, "Which one are we talking? Huh? Am I the only one?"
Well, Medicare, because I'm on Medicare now. I'm 71 years old.
Okay, me too.
And, and it's basically for people who are entering retirement or getting close.
It's health care.
It's health care.
Okay,
all right,
gotcha.
For seniors.
That's Medicare.
Yeah, that's Medicare.
So 3 years from now, I can get ready for that one.
You betcha.
That's right.
Yeah. Medicaid is a much bigger spectrum of people. All right. It is for people supposedly who fall below a certain salary level. They can't afford to get Blue Cross.
But is it? I'm sorry. I know people are going, "You don't know this stuff." No, I'm sorry. I don't. Or I'll try to. I just want to know Medicaid.
Medicaid.
Now, is this only for health care? Or is this welfare?
No, there's a difference between welfare
and Medicare. There's a difference.
Yeah, but you guys were talking earlier about people sitting on their couches being required, or whatever y'all were saying about being required now to
they're not
do some community
They're not
service.
being truthful, Tim. These people have signed up for Medicaid, saying, "Okay, I'm unemployed."
Okay.
All right. But I need some health care. I need a doctor's attention.
Okay, that's what Medicaid's for.
Right. Yes.
Supposedly.
Yes. Well, it's for people, low-income people. Some people do need it, and they're not, and that's true. I mean, you take
it's a safety net.
Take a mom who's maybe making $25,000 a year.
Right.
She needs help.
Right. I got you. That's what this is for.
Yeah. And here's
but it's being abused.
It is being abused, and you go back to Doge. Go back, we're trying to get people who are committing fraud, who are being, don't qualify for this kind of aid. We want to get those people off that.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So Medicaid, Medicare.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, and also...
There's also Medevac. Anyway.
The Democrats have been saying, too, people are going to be shoved off of Medicare. In fact, there was an ad being run...
Yeah, even on Fox, it showed this lady that was portrayed as an elderly woman, and she was sitting kind of alone and depressed looking in on a couch. And then it cuts to her, what's supposed to be her daughter and son-in-law having a conversation about her. And he says, "How did your mom do today?" And she said, "Not good. And I don't know what we're going to do if Republicans cut her Medicaid." Yeah. And this is an ad that's airing on Fox.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the big, beautiful bill will pass today, and it will be signed by the president tomorrow.
Yeah, there was a report earlier today. It could be either later today or tomorrow.
Okay.
I would not be shocked if he doesn't take advantage of it today, because you stand to get more eyeballs today. A lot of people are going to be working the grill tomorrow or outside enjoying the weather, because I think for the first time in what seems like years, it's not supposed to rain here in Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. In years. Okay. See what you did there.
It's been a very rainy summer for us.
Yeah. All right. You're listening to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. What's your next story, Chris?
Well, let's mention this. And you can find this on our website, afn.net. Yesterday, an Obama judge, a federal judge appointed by one Barack Obama, blocked President Trump's order barring asylum access at the border. This is a federal judge in Oklahoma who said, "I don't like what Donald Trump is doing on the U.S.-Mexico border," which Oklahoma does not border.
He said that like that?
That's how the judge referred to it. Now, the judge, in the judge's kindness, did agree to put the ruling on hold for 14 days to allow the Trump administration time to appeal, because they're going to appeal this. In the meantime, Fox brings out a number of legal experts to say this judge has no legal basis to do this based on what the U.S. Supreme Court just said when they said, "Hey, federal judges, no more nationwide injunctions." One example of somebody saying, "Here we go again," is former acting ICE Director Jonathan Fahey, who said this on Fox Clip 4.
First of all, it's sort of like, here we go again. After the Supreme Court basically shut down these judges from these massive, rulings affecting the whole country as opposed just to the litigants in front of them, we are back here again. I think this could potentially, but I don't really think it will, because I think the message has been sent to the people want to cross here illegally, then it's harder to get in, and once you get in, you're not going to stay. But it again just shows a judge really overreaching, because the Trump administration at the beginning of the administration declared a national emergency at the border, and this is within his inherent powers. And all they're saying is you have to go to a port of entry. You can still claim asylum, you just can't sneak across, and if you get caught, then claim asylum.
Yeah,
Fred.
Yeah, this and what's shocking in this, despite what the Supreme Court said just last week, that these federal district judges don't have the power to issue these nationwide injunctions. This is what this guy has done. And I expect what's going to happen is that the Trump administration, very quickly, the Justice Department will appeal to the appeals court, and it'll go up to the Supreme Court very quickly.
Yeah.
Based on what they said last week about these kinds of decisions.
Yeah, Ray?
Well, what we've got up at the top is a deeply divided, acrimonious situation on the Supreme Court. And I wouldn't be surprised if this judge who wrote this decision, which clearly goes against what the Supreme Court majority said last week. If you read Judge, what is her name, Judge Jackson's dissent, and got inflamed by that sort of rhetoric to embolden him basically to say, I'm going to disregard what the Supreme Court says. I think, Fred, I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't some other federal judges out there who agree with this fellow, almost to the point of saying, I really don't care what the Supreme Court says. I'm going to do what I want. But in this case, they're going to get slapped down sooner or later.
Once again, yeah, I agree with you, Ray. Once again, we have an abuse of the system going on.
Mm-hmm.
Americans are very generous people. We are, despite what the lefties say, we do have a heart.
Mm-hmm.
We help people around the world in many and various different ways. And in this case, we have an asylum process available to people who are persecuted politically now, or for religious reasons. Now, I don't have the wording in front of me, but that's always been the case in our country. We have accepted people from around the world who make an appeal to us, the United States government, to accept me as citizen because I seek asylum. Okay, so, but what has happened is, again, I mentioned abuse. Now we've had the people who are coming to the southern border, especially under Biden.
Yes, he created an app.
It's
unbelievable.
I know. It was insane. That's the reason. One of the reasons Democrats lost the presidency and other races is because people said, we just can't have people pouring into our country. We don't know who they are by the millions. And that's what Biden and Harris did anyway. So Trump vowed to stop that. But so now all of them who are coming to the southern border, who are trying to enter the country, are caught, are pleading asylum.
Yeah.
So you have to go before a judge, I think, to.
Yes.
But see, escaping leaving your country to come to America is not by definition asylum. All right? That's not because you come from a poor country, or you come from a country you don't like, or because you want to come to the United States for better opportunity, which who doesn't, then that's not asylum as it is intended to be. So I think that's why President Trump suspended the asylum process and still asylum access at the southern border and was unlawful. Yeah. There are ways to appeal or ask for asylum without just walking across the border.
Yeah.
Okay. So
these people are being asked now to go to an official border crossing.
Right.
And you can show up. But what Biden did, they created this app, and these people approaching our southern border fence go on the app. Okay, I'm applying for asylum.
Unbelievable.
Here's a court date 2 years from now. Then they were showing up at the fence and showing it to the border agents and say, "Hey, I got my date."
On an app. I come from the land of poverty. Here's my cell phone with
Yeah.
my app to prove it.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, you're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Wasn't there a bad shooting in Chicago?
Yes.
I mean, worse than normal?
Yes. There was a shooting in Chicago here. I'm going to pop it up because I had the Fox story.
I thought you mentioned that this morning.
I did.
Yeah.
I'm pulling it up for you as
Yeah.
we speak here. Chicago drive-by shooting leaves at least 4 dead, 14 wounded. Gunfire erupted during a rappers party at a restaurant, according to local media reports. Again, 4 people dead at least, another 14 injured. In Chicago, which is known for things like this. So, unfortunately, what we're talking about right now may be one of several incidents. I hate to say that about Chicago. I've been there several times. My mom grew up near there. I've got in-laws from the same area, but it's known for these kinds of unfortunate situations.
I guess, Ray, this is in a upscale part of Chicago.
Yeah, it's a nice area, River North, a very nice area. Well, it's a good place. You understand why this was a party for a rapper? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Well, I mean, what are the chances something like this could happen at a party for a rapper? But this did not happen, Tim, in a, quote, poor part of Chicago. The River North's a nice area, very nice area.
Yeah, I guess that was what was really surprising. The suburbs now are, becoming have more criminal activity going on in the suburbs of these big cities as people try to move further and further out, because of the criminal activity. There was also, sadly, a shooting in Washington, D.C. A 21-year-old intern who was working for the summer was shot and killed last night in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., I'm talking about certain areas of Washington, D.C. are dangerous.
Yes.
Very dangerous places, just if you go a few blocks from the Capitol. So, anyway, I was reading about that on Fox News as well.
21 years old.
Yeah. He was an intern for Representative Ron Estes of Kansas, according to the statement. Anyway, just there for the summer doing your intern work for a congressman. Probably a lifelong dream for a lot of kids. Go up there and then get shot at night and, near the Capitol building. All right, you're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. We got one more story before the break. By the way, Stephen McDowell, president of Providence Foundation, we're going to talk to him and relive, if we can, as much as possible, the events surrounding July the 4th, 1776. We're going to talk to Stephen McDowell about that in just a few minutes. Go ahead.
In the Supreme Court term that will begin this October, justices have agreed to hear 2 cases concerning state laws that protect women's sports. So finally, the High Court is going to get at the issue of whether or not males should be allowed to compete in female sports. This, of course, comes on the heels of the University of Pennsylvania agreeing to apologize for allowing Will Thomas to swim against females, and Pennsylvania also stripped his awards, things he won against females. President Trump, of course, has that executive order saying no more males in female sports, but a number of states, including California, have thumbed their nose at President Trump, and all those things could be coming to an end because, again, the Supreme Court is going to finally take up this case. And the 2 issues they're looking at come out of West Virginia and Idaho, which Alliance Defending Freedom is involved with. And for people not familiar with Alliance Defending Freedom, or ADF, they have a very good track record of winning at the U.S. Supreme Court.
I'm glad the Supreme Court's going to hear this. They're going to come out in favor of women's sports and keeping it divided between males and females. That's just that's what's going to happen when that goes to the Supreme Court. I saw a picture last night. There was a bike race in Wisconsin. Maybe I can find this. You know how they have like marathons? They have bike races, and it was supposed to be for the girls, for females, women. I mean, of all ages. And this guy, it was the ugliest looking girl I've ever seen in my life.
It's a handsome woman.
And why is that? Because it wasn't a girl. And it was look at it.
Dude.
I hate to put it. Yeah, it was a dude.
Oh, man.
Did you see this picture?
No,
It was a dude. I don't know if you want to, especially if you hadn't had lunch.
Probably not.
It was a dude. It was just, a brute looking guy. And
oh yeah, I see it.
He's very fit and muscular, and you going like, one of these things is not like the other.
She is manlier than I am.
On the podium. It was anyway. This woman said, I drove all the way a few hundred miles to come and compete against him. Be back.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Back many years ago, an elderly couple, a man and his wife, were passing through Philadelphia. Being tired and the night half gone, they searched for a hotel where they could get some rest. Every hotel they went to told them the same thing. Sorry, we're filled up. Finally, in desperation, the couple tried a little third-class hotel. As they entered the hotel, the man went to the night clerk and spoke. Mister, please don't tell me you haven't got a room. We've searched all over town for a room, but the conventions have filled up our usual hotels. We're so tired. Please don't tell me that you don't have a room where we could get some rest. The night clerk looked at the couple, saw how tired they were, and then spoke. I'm so sorry, sir, but our hotel is completely full. The expressions on the couple's faces turned to disappointment. They started to walk out. Then the night clerk spoke again. Sir, he said, I have a room which I'll not be using tonight. I have the night shift and will be working all night. It isn't a fancy room, not as nice as the others, but it is clean. And if you wish, I would be happy for you to be my guest for tonight. Well, their faces lit up with gladness. Their disappointment was turned to happiness. The woman spoke. God bless you, young man. Feeling like $1 million, the clerk showed them to his room. Next morning, the couple went to eat breakfast. At the table, they sent the waiter to get the night clerk. They sent a message they wanted to see him. Entering the room, the clerk spotted the couple. With a smile on his face, he spoke. Hope you got a good night's rest and everything was fine. Both the man and the woman thanked the clerk for his kindness. After exchanging a few words, the elderly man changed the subject. Young man, he said, you're too fine a hotel man to stay in a hotel like this. How would you like for me to build a large, expensive, luxury hotel in the city of New York and make you the manager of it? Well, the young man sat there for a moment. He did not know exactly what to say. He wondered if the gentleman's mind was right. Finally, after searching for something to say, he stammered out these words, It sounds wonderful. You know, that young man didn't have to put those people up for the night. He could have turned them away. He had a good reason, and people have been turned away before. Remember Bethlehem? Already every major hotel in Philadelphia had turned them away. But this young man had something about him that refused to turn them away. He wanted to help, to be kind, do unto others. He did that. He followed the carpenter's command. It wasn't long after that a new hotel went up in New York City. It was one of the greatest hotels ever built. They named it the Waldorf Astoria. And the young night clerk became the manager and one of the world's greatest hotel men. The gentleman he shared his room with was William Waldorf Astor.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
As an AFA insider, you're part of a community that stands strong for biblical values and works tirelessly to influence culture and policy with truth, advancing biblical values and ensuring a stronger, upright America for our families and future generations. AFA Insider, formerly AFA Alert, informs you first about AFA's mission and aiding the church in its task of fulfilling the Great Commission. Sign up to receive AFA Insider emails at afa.net.
You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. Jeremiah 29:13.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. That's the name of this show. Today's Issues, Tim, Fred, Chris, and Ray. And we thank you for listening, as always. Well, joining us now is another American who's on Medicare, Stephen McDowell, president of the Providence Foundation, who joins us now from Virginia. How you doing, Stephen?
I'm doing well.
How's your Medicare experience?
I guess I'm older than I feel and look.
Well, do you ask others?
No. When I tell them my real age, they think, "Wow, you can't be that old."
You can't be that old. So, yeah, all right. We went over earlier in the hour before you came on. We were going over the Medicare Medicaid differences. So that's Fred said he's on Medicare, and Ray said he's on Medicare.
And Brett and I are paying for it.
Yeah.
But they're not bitter.
Anyway, most people I've talked to like Medicare.
Absolutely.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
They've had a good experience.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well, I mean,
indeed.
it's a good.
I like it more now than I used to.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, Stephen is president of the Providence Foundation, which is in Charlottesville, Virginia. He is also the author of many books, including America's Providential History, which is a bestseller. And Stephen and I have been doing the tours together, the history tours, spiritual heritage tours together since the year 2000. Tomorrow is July the 4th, obviously, and we celebrate the beginning of Stephen. Will be the 250th anniversary, right? Next year.
Well, it's the 204. Yeah, next year. It's 249th anniversary tomorrow.
So, take us back. I know we have talked to you about this before, but just a little history lesson here on what were the ideas or the problems that the colonists were facing that led up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence. These were, we were British, the colonies, so these were people who were living in the new land, obviously the new world, but British citizens. And man, a lot of things must have had to happen to hurt their feelings, so to speak, so bad that they thought, we want to leave the crown. Go ahead.
If you read the Declaration of Independence, I hope every American reads and studies it, you see the bulk of that covenant that founded our nation is a listing of all of the violations of the rights that the American colonists had. They list, okay, we're British citizens, but the king and parliament have violated our God-given rights, our rights as British citizens, as citizens of the earth, and they list all the things that had taken place, especially over the previous 10 years, from imposing taxes upon them without their consent, with sending over troops and forcing families to quarter the troops, to threatening to take people out of America and try them in English courts, many, many things. So just go and read that. That in itself is a reflection of a biblical way to resist the tyrant. The Bible teaches we must obey God rather than man. When man begins to demand us to do what God says that we shouldn't do, and so there's a way to resist. And so they list, look, he's done this, he's taxed us without our consent, we've petitioned him, and things have only gotten worse. Then he sent troops over here we'd been fighting for 14 months. It was April 1775 when the British fired upon the colonists at Lexington Green, which was really the church lawn or Reverend Jonas Clark's church. And those 8 Minutemen that were killed and 10 wounded were most of them members of his church. So we'd been fighting 14 months, and still the colonists didn't want to declare independence because they said, look, we're British citizens. We want to resolve the conflict that we have. So December of 75, the king kicked them out. They were in a state of nature and really had no recourse but to declare our independence. And the reason they did, they list in that document. And so these men, the 56 men who signed that document they were Christian men. All but 2 or 3 were Orthodox Christian. They were reasoning from biblical principles of their God-given rights and liberties because they looked to the laws of nature and nature's God as the source of those rights. As our Declaration of Independence says, they appeal to the supreme judge of the world with a firm reliance upon the protection of divine providence. They've launched out on this unique new mission where they gave birth to a new nation built upon Christian self-government, built upon biblical ideas of the rule of law, of God-given rights and liberties. And it was a very, it took years and years of thinking and petitioning to do this. So it wasn't kind of like, hey, let's just have a rebellion and one day they rose up and declared independence. No, it's a well thought out concept. And, when these men did this, they weren't thinking, we're going to be famous. We're going to go down in history. They're going to talk about us on radio shows 249 years from now and read about us in textbooks. No, when they fixed their signature on that document, they believed they were subscribing to what was going to be their own death warrants, as Benjamin Rush would later write to John Adams, thinking about that very day. So, when you look at a copy of the Declaration of Independence, when you look at those 56 men who signed it, there's one name that stands out more than any other. And most Americans know that name because we use the phrase, put your John Hancock here. And his signature is big and bold, beautiful signature. And I remember when I first saw a picture, a replica of the Declaration years ago in elementary school maybe, and saw that big signature, I used to think, man, that guy must have been arrogant. Look how big he signed his name on that document. But I would later learn that wasn't the case at all. After he signed it, he said, His Majesty can now read my name without glasses, and he can also double the price on my head. Because he understood, as all these signers understood, when we put our name on that document, we're declaring to the king, we're the source of this, what the king thought was a rebellion. We can't hide, can't get away with it, and if we get caught, we're going to suffer. And so John Hancock went on to say, after making that statement, we must be unanimous. There must be no pulling different ways. We must all hang together. And that's when Benjamin Franklin responded in his characteristic wit, yes, we must indeed all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately. And so death was a very real possibility for these guys. They weren't thinking we're going to be famous, they'll read about us. They were thinking, we're signing our own death warrants.
Ray, go ahead. Hey, Ray has a question before you go ahead, Ray.
I want to ask you about what is perhaps the best known part of the Declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What did they mean when they said we hold these truths to be self-evident, and when they talked about certain unalienable rights? What's it? That's a famous statement, but we never think about what it means. What did they mean when they said those words?
Well, that sentence in the Declaration is full of biblical ideas when they said we hold these truths to be self-evident. See, the founders adhered to a set of truths. They believed the biblical view of truth. There is truth. that emanates from the Creator. And the Creator decrees what is right and wrong, moral or immoral, lawful or unlawful. So they adhere to that. Today, most Americans don't even believe there is truth. Only a third believe there's such a thing as truth. Then everybody, even the non-Christians, then recognize there is truth, there's right and wrong, it comes from the Creator. We hold these truths to be self-evident. They understood God created man in his image and gave us a conscience and some knowledge of truth, of right and wrong. Romans 1, Romans 2 tells us about that. So we have some knowledge that there is a Creator, and He is the source of truth. So we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. So we're created in the image of God. That gives value to individual man because we are created. And we are given certain inalienable rights. That word inalienable means no one can take them from you. In fact, you can't even give them up. That's an inalienable right. And it's interesting, Jefferson used to summarize those inalienable rights as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, the phrase life, liberty, and property was well established. It had been written about for centuries or more. John Locke wrote about it in the late 1600s. And so why would he say the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Well, today when Americans hear pursuit of happiness, they think, man, I'm free to do whatever I want to do to make me happy. But William Blackstone, who is a famous English jurist who wrote Commentaries of the Laws of England, which was the law textbook every lawyer studied for 150 years, he defines what it meant. He said the pursuit of happiness is freedom to pursue the will of God. That's what Jefferson meant by that, because if you're free to pursue the will of God, that will produce blessing and flourishing in your life. That's what makes men happy, freedom to do God's will, not freedom to do my will. And so if any government hinders us or threatens our life, liberty, or keeps us from doing the will of God, it's illegitimate government, and we have a God-given right to change it, to resist, and that's what the founders of America were doing. They were resisting the tyrannical action of the king and Parliament.
Let me ask you this, Stephen. When the Declaration of Independence was signed on July the 4th, 1776 in Philadelphia, which, by the way, you can still go there and Freedom, what's it called? Freedom Hall?
I think so.
Is that what it's called? Anyway.
Independence Hall?
Independence Hall. Excuse me. Because they sign it, these 56 signers, and they're representing the colonies, right? Is that right?
They're representatives from each of the 13 states,
yes,
right?
Yes. So that they are doing this on behalf of the citizens that they represent. And you got to remember that we're not talking about an age of, we're watching on television right now in our studio what's going to happen with the big, beautiful bill in Washington, D.C., and the vote's going to be taken, and we're going to know instantaneously what's happening. Well, in that era, obviously, they didn't know. Things had to be, sent by horseback or on a ship or whatever like that. I wonder how long it would have taken the King of England, King George, right?
Yeah,
King George, to know that the colonists had declared basically independence from England. Do you know the timeline on when?
Well, I do know.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the copy that we think of as the Declaration that you see in the National Archives in Washington, D.C., and we see that on our tours, by the way, it was an engrossed copy that was signed. Most 54 delegates signed it on August the 2nd because it took a guy, a number of days to produce such a copy. But on July 4th, they approved the Declaration of Independence that Jefferson and the committee had drawn up with some additions from the whole Congress. So they did approve it on July 4th. It's believed by some that they fixed their signature on a piece of paper associated with that original copy, though that doesn't exist. But they did authorized the printing of a lot of copies. So the night of July 4th, July 5th, that morning, they got a local printer to print up a bunch of copies, and they sent those to the governors of the states. They sent it to General Washington and leaders in the war and other people like this. And it would have taken, they printed that real quick. By the next day, they sent them out, and within a few days, these copies began to be delivered to the various governors and George Washington, and you had public readings, probably beginning around July 8th. You began to have a lot of public readings of that document in the various states so people could hear about their Declaration of Independence, of what happened by their representatives in the Congress that was meeting together in Philadelphia in July. Now, how long it took for the king to get word of this, it would have taken probably at least 4 weeks for a ship to sail from the Americas to deliver that message over to England. I don't know the exact date.
Right.
It's a good question. I'm gonna find that out. But it was taking weeks and weeks before he knew about that.
Yeah. Well, it was one of the dates that, if you look at world history, I'm thinking July the 4th, 1776 is going to be a top 10 probably in human history in terms of the influence that decision that day had on the world, because after that came into existence the United States of America.
Absolutely. And Stephen, talk a little bit about the impact that many of our kids today, they don't know about this. And the impact.
You mean the history that he's talked about?
The history that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Our kids today don't know it, and that's very sad. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, our schools don't teach it, and a lot of it's on purpose, because the philosophy that captured our government schools is anti-Christian philosophy. So they don't know the story of the Declaration. They don't know the price that was paid. They don't know the Christian foundations of it. John Adams was a signer of the Declaration, and after they agreed to it, he wrote a letter to his wife, Abigail. They wrote lots of letters, and he described the Day of Independence. And this is what he said. This is what we ought to be doing today. He said, the Day of Independence will be the most memorable epocha in the history of America. And I would agree with you, Tim, the history of the world. And then he said, I'm apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the day of deliverance by solemn acts of devotion to God Almighty, from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward forevermore. So what he's saying is, look, when we think of what happened here, we as a people throughout the state should be celebrating this day as a day of deliverance by devotion to Almighty God. That's the foremost thing we should be doing on July 4th, giving thanks to God, because he is the one who motivated, inspired, directed these people to give birth to this unique nation, a nation built on Christian liberty that's been an example of liberty to the world, and it's spread throughout the world. What government ought to be to protect our rights to life, liberty, and property. So we don't do that today mostly. Some people do recognize and acknowledge God and the providence of God, but we forget, and that's because we haven't taught this in our schools in quite some time, the great price paid and the great importance of this date in regards to the advancement of liberty in the world.
We're talking to Stephen McDowell, president of the Providence Foundation and author of America's Providential History. Stephen has a weekly podcast. What you've heard him talk about the last little while here on this program, he does weekly in his own podcast that we put on American Family Radio's website. And there's a lot of great podcasts with excellent stories and teachings that he's already archived because he's been doing this since February. So if you want to access any of these programs, these podcasts that Stephen does, they're called America's Providential History. All you need to do is go to afr.net, click on podcast, and then you'll see the banner for America's Providential History. Again, that's exclusively here on AFR.net. Stephen McDowell's America's Providential History podcast, which is released weekly. AFR.net. Click on podcast. All right, Stephen, thanks so much for being on with us, and have a happy July 4th celebration.
Okay, thank you, Tim and fellas. God bless you.
Okay, that's Stephen McDowell joining us from Charlottesville, Virginia. What Stephen's just talked about, Ray? Give us your thoughts on this.
Well, first of all, Tim, if you've ever wondered, folks, if you should go on one of these tours, you should go.
Oh, yeah.
On one of the tours. He's a fountain of knowledge and information about the founding of our nation, and it's so interesting to me how the writers of the Declaration of Independence, I mean, it's a document for our nation, but it is grounded in Christian truth.
Yes.
It's grounded in biblical theology. It's grounded in an understanding of God's word. And I love the way, I asked him about that these truths to be self-evident. He's 1,000% right. That goes back to the belief that there is a God, that God has spoken, and that truth is not up for grabs, but it is actually revealed. So kudos to him for what he did. And last thing, he's exactly right. Look, we're going to have a party here at my house tomorrow, and our son and his wife and their 3 kids are going to be over. And I was, Fred, I was out messing around with the grill just before the program, hooking up, checking the propane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The worst thing that can happen is to run out of propane on the grill on the 4th of July. That, friends, will not happen. Be warned. Men, be warned. Go check today.
It's a good point. Absolutely.
But through all the merriment and the games and the fun, let us at least take a moment tomorrow to thank God. For these men who pledged their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor. They did it not in spite of their Christian faith, but for the most part, for most of them, because they were Christians, because they believed in God and they believed in His Word.
Yeah, and if you were looking at this as a sporting event, you would say, okay, the chances of success for this team. Team Colonist, Team Declaration. They had, if you were looking at both teams.
I got George the third by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I know.
Right now. I got it right now by 4 touchdowns.
It would be 90-10. The Red Coats, the British, the most powerful army and navy in the world at that time. They were going to win this and crush the colonists. But I would just say that divine providence, as Stephen would say, God had other plans, and miraculously the Americans won. And if you just read about that, the War of Independence or the Revolutionary War, whatever you want to call it, because I've read all about it, and it's just remarkable is an understatement when you read the events that had to take place and things that happened, which seemed like, okay, why did the fog set on the river at this particular moment in time? Why did the winds shift? And some of these founding fathers, well, and the others who were there at the time, they write about these things that happened, which you go, had that not happened, or this incident not happened, or this unusual weather event happened, then the Americans, they weren't, I don't know if they were called the Americans at the time, but the Revolutionary Guard, they wouldn't have won. So,
so many factors came together.
Right.
You had to have men of the character, as Stephen McDowell was just telling us. That story about John Hancock, his signature being bigger than the others.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic story. In that
he wanted the king to see it.
He wanted the king to see it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to hide what I'm standing for.
Right.
Here it is. Come and get me.
Yeah.
Hey,
listen, tomorrow, our offices and studios, we're going to be closed in, for July the 4th. And so we're going to play, we're not going to have trivia tomorrow. We're going to play a special by Stephen McDowell on the life of George Washington. And nobody was more influential on the founding of America than the father of our country, George Washington, General George Washington, President George Washington. He was a man of destiny, if you will. And so Stephen's going to tell you that whole story tomorrow during this hour of today's issues. We're going to be back momentarily with more with Steve Paisley-Jordahl. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Sometimes being an insider means you understand the joke that only certain ones really know. Other times, it gets you into exclusive places. As an AFA insider, you'll get information about issues and policies that can dramatically impact our families and our Christian rights, and you won't have to travel to D.C. or even dress up to get it. Find out more and sign up at afa.net/activism.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. The House is expected to vote on the Senate version of President Trump's big, beautiful tax and spending bill. The House passed its version back in May, but it went to the Senate, where changes were made that upset a lot of conservatives. Fox News chief congressional correspondent Chad Pergram tells us what the negotiations have been about.
One of the things that we have heard about the most is trying to get the deficit down. And House Speaker Mike Johnson has indicated that they might try to do yet another, what they call a budget reconciliation bill later this year. That's where they can bypass Senate budget rules and maybe try to lower the deficit. That's something that would be in there. The other thing that the House of Representatives had in its bill, and because of those special budget rules in the Senate, they could not get into the bill, is barring illegal immigrants from receiving Medicaid. They had to chop that out in the Senate, and that was something that ticked off a number of conservatives, because that was one of the hallmarks of that bill when it moved through the House. So they might come back and try to do that unilaterally, but whether or not they can actually get that into law, that's going to be subject to 60 votes to avoid a filibuster in the Senate.
The Pentagon announcing a brand new detail on the damage that has been done to Iran's nuclear program after the strikes targeting its facilities last week. This is Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell.
Our assessment of the battle damage around Fordow, Nantes, and Isfahan remains unchanged.
Assessments by this department think it's been degraded or delayed by 1 to 2 years?
I think we're thinking probably closer to 2 years. We believe that Iran's nuclear capability has been severely degraded, perhaps even their ambition to build a bomb.
A federal judge appointed by Barack Obama has blocked President Trump's order to stop migrants from claiming asylum. The judge ruling that, quote, Trump lacks the inherent constitutional authority to displace federal statutes when it comes to removals. Former acting ICE Director Jonathan Fahey says, here we go again.
After the Supreme Court basically shut down these judges from these massive, rulings affecting the whole country as opposed to just the litigants in front of them, we are back here again. I think this could potentially, but I don't really think it will, because I think the message has been sent to the people who want to cross here illegally, that it's harder to get in, and once you get in, you're not going to stay. But it, again, just shows a judge really overreaching, because the Trump administration at the beginning of the administration declared a national emergency at the border, and this is within his inherent powers. And all they're saying is you have to go to a port of entry. You can still claim asylum, you just can't sneak across, and if you get caught, then claim asylum.
CBS has settled an election interference lawsuit with President Trump over an edited interview the president says was meant to hurt his 2024 campaign. Steve Jordahl reports it's the latest in a series of legal losses for a biased mainstream media.
CBS was interviewing Kamala Harris on 60 Minutes late in the campaign when it decided to correct a Harris word salad, according to the Trump campaign, to make Harris look more presidential and push her toward the White House. This was Harris's original answer.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted.
And this was the alleged stealth edit.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing.
CBS has agreed to pay President Trump an initial $16 million with more to come. It did not admit any wrongdoing, and the money will be used to pay for the lawsuit and go to other charitable causes. Nick Fundacaro of Media Research Center says CBS got caught.
They wanted to protect the Democratic ticket. Now they're out millions of dollars, and now they have to retool their editorial process to promptly release the transcripts.
It's the latest in a series of victories for the president over media outlets. In December, Trump got $15 million from ABC in a defamation suit, and in January, he got $25 million from Meta after Facebook and Instagram improperly blocked his accounts. Fundacaro says those wins can be added to defamation payouts to people like then high school student Nick Sandman and Navy veteran Zachary Young.
There are hardworking, average Americans out there who are becoming victims of the liberal media, and they're trying to hold the media to account.
I'm Steve Shortall.
More news available online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
Hello, my name is Andy Miller, and I'm the president of Wesley Biblical Seminary based in Ridgeland, Mississippi. We are developing trusted leaders for faithful churches, and we do that based in the authority of Scripture and in the reality that Christians can be transformed. We do that also through bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. We'd love for you to learn more about Wesley Biblical Seminary at wbs.edu, where we're developing trusted leaders for faithful churches.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network, AFR.net. Tim, Fred, and Ray, and then now Steve Paisley Jordahl joined us. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, everybody.
So, guys, I was out in the popcorn area, and I was defending it, shielding it from others who were trying to get some popcorn because that's mine.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's right.
Got to defend your popcorn honor. So anyway, one of our fellow employees, Rusty.
Oh yeah.
He had on his St. Louis Cardinals baseball cap.
Yes.
As I said, since COVID, we really have no dress code around here anymore, and we're kind of like America.
Yes.
That's right.
Do you see what else he was wearing?
I don't mind people wear. I wear hats. We wear hats. What were you saying now?
What else was on his T-shirt? The logo.
Now what was that?
Buc-ee's.
Oh, Buc-ee's. Oh yeah, Buc-ee's is developing a cult following. You know what we're talking about, don't you, Ray?
Listen, there's nothing more American than Buc-ee's.
Oh, man.
Buc-ee's is America.
We stop at Buc-ee's, like a lot of people do, just for the entertainment value.
It's a destination now.
Fresh biscuit on the board.
You've been to Buc-ee's.
Oh, yeah. People watching at Buc-ee's. And they have good brisket. They really have good brisket, but
and they're about to break ground. We don't have one in Kansas City.
Oh,
but they're about to break ground for one here in Kansas City. I can't wait.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, you go in the restroom, they got like 50, men's things, and it's like smells like Pine Sol in there. I mean, it's
clean.
Cleanest restrooms in America. Yeah,
and they have the employees have a uniform, khaki pants and red shirt. And by the way, I was at two of them in the last week or so in my travels. They now have a billboard out in front. If you want to work for Buc-ee's, have you seen the salaries of the manager and the assistant managers?
Oh yeah,
the manager of a Buc-ee's is over $200,000.
Hello,
and the assistant managers are like $135,000.
Really?
Yeah.
For a big gas station.
You get over $100,000 just to manage the car wash.
No,
wow.
It's a gas station Walmart combo.
It is.
Like a county fair, right?
Yeah, or a Kroger mixed in with
Midway.
They don't have produce, but they have almost everything else there.
Yes.
It's wonderful. Buc-ee's is America.
It is. It's kind of like half Cracker Barrel, half what would you say,
well, it's a little bit of Walmart because they got some clothing section.
I just know
there.
the one down
it's like a county fair.
The Buc-ee's down in Mobile. It's not in Mobile. It's
right
on the way to Gulf Shores and Orange Beach.
Well, there's one just east of Birmingham.
There's one there, but I'm talking about the one down in that's
yes.
like 10 miles east of Mobile on I-10.
And I-10.
That has more gas pumps than any other place. It's got to have more than any other place in America.
I think it's about 60. There's about 60
Probably
pumps.
more than that. Yeah, 60.
Right.
You're probably right. I've never seen anything like it.
It's amazing.
Huh? It's like
And if you're
it's
hungry,
like, it's like
go in
if
there,
you,
get something to
it's
eat.
like when you drive from one end of the gas station to the other, you've used a quarter tank of gas yourself. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
So anyway, back to my point, and I did have
we
one.
kind of got lost here.
So Rusty's wearing the in the popcorn area. He's wearing the St. Louis Cardinals baseball cap. And we were talking and reflecting because all of us here, we're of the age we can remember. I said, you know what? I grew up listening to the St. Louis Cardinals on my transistor radio.
Wow.
And when I was like 7, 8, 9 years old, riding your bike in the summer.
Yeah.
Going to the swimming pool and you got your transistor. This was before everything became so dangerous. I'm talking late 60s, early 70s. And a lot of people listening right now can identify with that. The transistor radio.
Transistor radio.
Is that even still a thing, Ray? Do you know? Have you seen one of those?
If you're under 40, you have no idea
what we're talking about?
No.
Right?
Steve, you listened to the transistor radio growing up?
You know what? I usually listen to the radio by my bed. I was a big 50s music fan as a teenager. So this would be the 70s. So 20-year-old is oldies. And Chuck Berry and Little Richard and the Shirelles.
How old were you at that time?
I was a teenager. That's what I just like to listen to.
You mean when those were popular, or were you listening to oldies?
I was listening to oldies.
Okay.
I listened to the 50s music in the 70s.
I got you.
And
you're an old soul.
Well, my sister would listen to the rock station, and of course, we're both PKs. My dad is a Baptist pastor, and so the rock music,
You had to sneak to listen to rock music?
She did. I didn't.
You didn't.
I listened to my folks' favorite music.
Okay. So that was okay.
It was a strategic
But
move.
not the modern rock music.
Yeah, they didn't like the modern rock
Not
music.
that hippie stuff, right?
Nah. But yeah, so as far as transistor, I remember transistor radios. I don't remember particularly
Used to have them.
Oh, yeah.
You remember Tim trying to get a station at night, and you just do the
you had a dial. It wasn't digital yet, I don't think.
No. And you said you had to adjust that dial and turn it a little bit this way, a little bit that way.
Yeah, we in Nova Scotia, where I grew up, at night, particular atmospheric conditions called skip, and you could get stations out of Boston. It's how my dad got saved, listening to a Boston radio station up in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia.
Wow.
Seriously?
Yeah. He listened, heard a preacher out of Boston, got saved.
When would this have been? Like in the...
Oh, he was born in the 20s.
Yeah.
In fact, it's his birthday today.
Oh.
He would have been 101 today.
Oh.
Wow. But we used to get, and even as a boy, I used to use the skip, and I'd get stations out of New York and Boston.
And that would have been 1,000 miles away or something like that, wouldn't it?
It was probably a good 500 or 600 miles down the coast, yeah.
Growing up in the mission field, sometimes we would have a shortwave radio. Ever do
Yes.
shortwave radio?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
That was actually intended to go that far.
Yeah.
Well, So I was talking about that. I remember, and what you're talking about, Ray, the transistor radio. I use that mostly during the day. I did, and at nighttime sometime, but we're talking in the late 60s, 70s, early 70s. But I remember, too, having when my parents bought me a AM/FM radio that you could use with earphones.
Yeah.
Right? This would have been like 1975 or something like that. So at night, I would put on my earphones and start, like you did, Fred, start going down the AM dial. And you could go all over the country.
Yeah.
Listen to various different radio stations. Wolfman Jack.
Wolfman Jack, yeah.
Wolfman Jack.
Laugh for the
Wasn't that WLS, Chicago?
WLS at 890 out of Chicago.
There you go.
Right. Yeah, and I remember you can get...
Dr. Demento?
What now?
Dr. Demento? Anybody remember Dr. Demento?
Yeah.
Where was that?
It was an FM disc jockey in the 70s. Yeah.
But I remember, and you could get KMOX St. Louis at night. You could listen to the Cardinals, or you could go to You could go to KDKA or what was that? It's Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, right.
Am I right? KDK, and then WWE in Cleveland, Ohio. I mean, I could go all up and down the dial and listen to all kind of stuff all over.
Yeah.
All over the country at night because you had Clear Channel.
Yes.
WWL, I think, was New Orleans and Cincinnati. WSB, Atlanta. All these. I still have these
WBAP out of Fort Worth.
Yeah. At Clear Channel at night.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're bringing back a flood of memories.
I know, right?
I lived through 8-track, too. 8-track?
Oh, yeah.
8-track players in the car?
Yeah. Yeah, 8-track players. Now, people probably, 50 under, they don't,
they miss so much.
No, we're talking prehistoric stuff here to them.
Right.
They read about this in history books.
8-track, what is that?
8
What is
tracks.
that? Right.
All right, Ray, what preceded the 8-track?
Well, I don't. The reel-to-reel, right? The reel-to-reel record
in the car.
For music, you just have 45s, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah.
Well. You're asking about music in the car. What?
There wasn't
before
it
the
was
radio
mom
track,
singing.
There was
That's
nothing,
what preceded the 8-track.
Mom singing, right?
Or the radio.
Yeah.
The radio playing music. There's no way to play
I don't know,
an album or CD.
Cassettes or 8-track come first?
I believe it was 8.
No, be 8 tracks.
8 tracks, yeah.
8 tracks then. Cause
you had to have a huge basket to keep all the 8 tracks in. So the things were huge.
They were, and then they'd get stuck in your 8-track player.
Pull them out,
and then you pull them out, and there goes your whole $3 you spent on
right.
Barry Manilow's greatest hits.
If you had an 8-track,
that's so true, though. That's so true.
You're like going, "Good night,
oh,
Mom.
Mom,
come here. Can you fix this?" Cassettes did the same thing.
Oh,
yeah,
that's were the worst.
Yeah. All right, you are listening to you're listening to American Family Radio, also known as Big Beautiful Radio.
Yes, Memory Lane.
That's right.
I could. As you get older, you want to relive that, don't you?
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days, as they say, back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Steve.
Hey,
what do you got for us?
We want to welcome back all our listeners under the age of
That's these old timers.
Right.
So this is a difficult subject to talk about. I'm doing this because it has to do with immigration. Fair warning, we're going to be talking about sex assaults. In Germany, they are having an epidemic of assaults at pools, public pools.
Oh.
They've had more than 74 attacks in just one region, and they've arrested, in one case, it was 8 little girls. These are mostly girls, and they're largely Somali immigrants that have been doing the attacking. The reason I bring it up is because, again, we talked about this a little bit before, that immigration over there is unfettered, and they are not they're still on the political correct bandwagon. So they've had these attacks, and the German authorities have started putting posters up at the pool saying don't touch anybody else in the pool. But here's the thing, all of these posters have white people attacking colored people as a warning, even though that's not what's happening.
Yeah.
It is the most blatantly racist thing I've seen in a while. It just I had to bring it in to as a warning. Immigration out of control changes a culture. It changes a country. And what President Trump is doing in enforcing immigration laws in this country is not only helping cities and budgets and all this kind of crime, it is literally saving the American culture. I just have to say it.
Yeah.
Well, you said it.
I have said it.
Next.
Want to talk about good news?
Yes.
Let's talk about this dad who jumped over the side of a cruise ship to save his daughter.
Yeah, that was incredible.
5-year-old girl. The mom and dad were playing shuffleboard nearby, and this kid climbs up on a railing, and either because of gust of wind or sudden movement of the ship or whatever, she falls overboard.
Down a porthole.
Well,
fell through a porthole.
It was a big porthole.
Okay.
It was
And this was a cruise from Florida to the Bahamas. It's a Disney cruise.
It is a Disney cruise. They were actually embarking back to Fort Lauderdale, I believe, from the Bahamas at the time.
Yeah.
Fortunately, the ship was not traveling very fast. You've been on a cruise ship. You've seen how fast those things go. If you fall into the water in the middle of an open ocean like that, the chances are not good that you're going to be found. But this little 5-year-old girl falls overboard. Dad jumps in after her and saves her.
Yeah.
Keeps her afloat for about 20 minutes.
He treads water with her.
He treads water with her while the rescue people from the boat, having practiced this over and over again, they come and they get him, a textbook rescue, and everybody ends up saved and happy.
Yeah, I saw that and read that. Did you see the video or the story about this, Ray?
I've been following this story, Tim. And I'm thinking about this dad. Okay, the fatherly instinct, but guys, if he's 10 seconds late, it's too late. Won't be able to, probably won't, because the little girl couldn't swim, right? So
it was nighttime.
Right. Well, if it's nighttime, but that's another whole.
Right.
There's another whole outcome here for sure, but he had to somehow know when she fell.
Right.
And he did not wait 1 second. He did what a father should do. He jumped without knowing anything else would happen.
Right.
He went after her, and so kudos. This is a story that could have ended so tragically, and wow, it took some courage, and the guy had to be right there.
But sadly, the gossip started right away on people's social media to blame him. There were stories that started that he put her up on that railer, put her up on that large porthole, and that he was negligent. All kinds of things like that. But thankfully, there were witnesses there to tell the truth. But it was just...
And the sheriff's office there, they did the video.
Yeah.
I saw what happened. The girl, it was an accident that she fell over. Now, I don't know how she got on, who placed her up there, how she got on there, but...
I think she was climbing on the railing.
Yeah. Okay, well...
She was a 5-year-old.
5-year-olds, I mean, you take your eyes off them for 1 second.
For 1 second, right.
Yeah, so it was an accident.
Yes.
And so, but yeah, Ray, to your point, the dad jumped over immediately, didn't even think about it. I mean, his love instinct, if that's what you want to call it, for his daughter kicked in within a second, and he was able to retrieve her and tread water for 20 minutes. He's out there treading water in the ocean,
long time. Yeah.
waiting on the what do you call the little boat that leaves the big ship to go, whatever that is.
The rescue boat, whatever.
Yeah, rescue boat. There's a name for it. But they went out and got him. I saw pictures of him. I think I saw a video of him. He was exhausted, obviously. Go ahead.
Do we know how far the fall was?
4 stories. 4.
Okay, that sounds exactly right.
Yeah.
So we're not talking a 10-foot fall here.
What's the story? Is that 10 feet?
Yeah, I think
8 to 10 feet.
So you're talking about 40 feet, right?
Minimum. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
That's it.
Really scary.
Well,
he
was injured. The dad is reported had injuries.
Right. 40 feet's a long way to fall just jumping in the water. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, but that's a happy ending there to that story, thank God. Because every once in a while you read about somebody falling overboard.
Right.
Never to be heard from again.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you said, at night, if this happened at night, that's another whole ending.
Yeah, you wouldn't have. Yeah, the chances of, anyway, you're listening to today's Issues. Next story, Steve.
Some more good news out of Stanford, California. Not much good comes out of Stanford. The medical team there, Stanford Medical, has decided to stop sex change surgeries for children. This is gender mutilation surgeries that they were doing on kids because the Trump administration has said that they're not going to fund any hospital that does any of these surgeries or drug treatments of minor kids who think that they want to change their gender. Stanford has decided it's not going to be doing these anymore.
Well, good.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have been doing them in the first place.
Yes.
Sounds like to me the Trump administration's playing hardball on this issue, on the girls, protecting girls' sports, and and protecting minors from being the victims of
gender
mutilation, or in the name of the transgendered cause, that the President Trump and his administration are doing everything they possibly can at a federal government level to stand for what's good and right and true on these issues. Am I right?
And I believe they're doing it because they know it's right.
Yes, I agree.
However, it is also politically right. The vast majority of people across this country agree with the Trump agenda on this. The vast majority.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And why the Democrats keep supporting this.
I know. The other thing is, listen, if you want to do something when you're an adult, like some kind of surgery, that's one thing, but no way should a state allow a genital surgery, or even giving these hormone blockers or whatever I'm talking about drugs, to minors.
Yeah.
No way you should be allowed to do that. And most states have, at least the red states, have common sense laws on this. But
it's a disease. I saw some celebrity who said that their 9-month-old child was now transgender. Like,
what?
9 months old. I don't remember what celebrity it was, but it was a 9-month-old, and this lady was saying, my daughter, 9-month-old daughter's.
It was a girl?
It was a boy.
Celebrity?
Yeah, well, it was a woman celebrity, yeah. But
that's evil.
Totally.
All right. You got another? We're running out of stories. We got 3 more minutes.
I got more stories. How about the DeSantis administration coming up and saying that Key West is going to have to get its stuff together, or else maybe its elected officials are going to have some vacation time?
What'd they do there?
So the commission in Key West, which is the southernmost community in Florida, it's at the end of the little trail of keys, they decided that they voted 5-1 to void an agreement that required its police department to partner with ICE. So ICE was coming in, and Florida has a law that says your police department has to cooperate with these federal immigration and customs officials if they're doing arrests. Well, Key West thought no, because Key West is a very liberal enclave down there. And they decided to strut their stuff, and
But the Attorney General of Florida and the Governor of Florida said you can't. You can't be a sanctuary city in Florida.
Right. Ron DeSantis and James Uthmeyer have come and said you can't do this.
Yeah.
And they said that the officials there are facing possible removal from office if they refuse to restore the...
hey, we got time for that. So that Alligator Alcatraz down in Florida, we talked about that. According to the Babylon Bee, Steve, there are some other states that are considering renaming some of their detention centers, right?
We've got some of their detention centers. So in Pennsylvania, they're considering the Amish Alcatraz.
Alcatraz, that sounds frightening.
It does. In Montana, get ready for Grizzly Gitmo.
Grizzly Gitmo.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So if you escape from there, you got to take on grizzlies.
You got to, and as President Trump would say, you don't run in a straight line. Did you see him actually do this?
No, I didn't.
When he was talking about if you're going to run away from the alligator, don't run in a straight line. Run.
It's good to know.
Right. In California, they're going to have this unique. It's called Alcatraz.
Oh, they're going to reopen that. Huh?
Yes, apparently.
Yeah. What do they got in Texas there?
The Texas, remember the Alcatraz.
Okay.
They're going to have
a new detention center.
Right. In Idaho, there's a potato penitentiary.
Okay.
And, of course, in Kansas, the state of Kansas.
It's
the whole thing.
Okay.
It is itself.
Put them in the
some
state
kind of
somewhere.
message there.
Right. Just like Ohio, Toledo is now the new Alcatraz.
I don't know. If I had to pick, I'd probably go to the Amish Alcatraz there because there's going to be some good food.
Right? You're going to eat well.
You can go to Chief Warren's teepee in Massachusetts.
Chief Warren. Oh, my goodness. All right, so tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, on this hour, Ray, you got a show. You're going to have a half-hour special. Tell us about it.
Right. Coming up at 11 o'clock this half hour tomorrow, called A Few Good Men. How a few good men wrote and signed the Declaration of Independence, founded our nation, and how a few good men and women today can change a family, can change a city, a nation, and the world.
So tomorrow, folks, we love doing Trivia Friday, but it's July 4th. It's a very important day on the calendar for our country, and our offices and studios are going to be closed because we're going to be having time with our family, celebrating as well. So we're going to have a George Washington special by Stephen McDowell during this hour, and then we're going to have Ray's special, A Few Good Men, that he just described. So you're going to want to tune in for all that tomorrow on American Family Radio. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday, July the 4th. We will talk to you again on Monday, so have a wonderful and safe holiday weekend.